tranquility and balance to everybody listening to this. And after that, some type of realization understanding. Because the realization understanding, it's kind of like the feeling to something of a particular type of void. Because when we have a particular type of void, different emotional intrusions could come in us. And as those emotional intrusions of a confusion, of that kind of quote unquote flower bed, end quote, other things could grow from that confusion, be it whatever. And then something of a detrimental energy nature could come of that. So I'm saying all of this because, the different types of quote unquote non-duality, end quote, the not good, not bad, there's a process we're going through that our human doesn't necessarily understand. And it's up to us to over the eternal work to nudge towards that, to eventually go on the side of homeostasis, but on a deep spiritual level, because this deep spiritual homeostasis, that is the low-key foundation to what's going on, to how we're just leaning to some type of comfort. And who do we got here today? We got the wonderful Good Luck Stumptons, or Stumptown. So the main topic of this video is why does God put us through this shit? If God even exists, why are we particularly put through the shit that we're put through? And why we're particularly put through the shit that we're put through, because it's a process of a particular type of realizing of how we're developing our awareness within this reality. What we don't know, or what we think we know, will get rearranged and resituated, so we could have our own dawning of a realization of how we just need some time to process things, so we could actually know and not have the ignorance to see how someone could relate to us, because everyone could put some type of mask on, some type of charade or facade, and they're so good at it, and you wouldn't know. But I'm just saying that generally, and I'm not saying that as a bad thing or a good thing. It's you get in where you fit in, right? So you could ask, why is God putting you through this right now, this situation? Because there's a particular type of lack of awareness that is being developed, and that awareness that's being refilled and developed, it's taking you through a particular type of realization process. So you could kind of even out your pretty much your spiritual mind, and how you could more or less be, eventually with a certain clarity and intelligence, eventually you could find some type of tranquility, because we all come across all of these different, insights and adages at our own time, these, whatever type of, these, just these standard principles of quote unquote, that aren't necessarily related to time, but they're in time. So, and that could be, that insight or adage could be anything, because you hear a lot of these new age messages, chock full of these new age messages, and it's what do they really mean? And it's all of these new age messages, be it whatever, it's starting a very particular type of niche process, and how it's working for you, and how you develop it differently as opposed to someone else. Because if you impose your shit on someone else, you're not necessarily taking them into consideration on how they are, how they process things, what is their nature. And if you don't have that consideration, there's an ignorance to the standard respect you have for the people that you're working with, and that's a general thing. And if you can't if you don't have that principle with your profession, then that's the process of the development. That's the process of all these all of these like slopey, turny type of roads, all these like, shifty type of roads, is because of like the awareness is getting developed, like sometimes we're like, for example, we could be like in a state of solitude for whatever reason, and how we go into that solitude is like very unique and subjective to you. But within that solitude, what's being developed is like the realization of how like just the nature of everything, the nature of how people are, how they got, where they landed, and like the underground podcast, it's like it's on a different level, because it's like it's just seeing how like just a different, like it's a whole different precision, to be honest. But like, not to be too long-winded here, because I gotta drink this good luck coffee, and may you find good luck on this type of good luck vibe. So the main topic of this question was the main question of this topic video was like, why could God be putting us through the shit that we're being put through, And the simple answer, just to reiterate it, is because a certain awareness is being developed of how, like, everything could work, nature and reality, them being synonymously doing their thing together, and them doing their own different thing not together. And it's not necessarily a good and bad relationship. They're just their own, energy natures of entities. An entity not necessarily being like, anthropomorphized or humanistic, just an entity being like a force of nature, But, how we anthropomorphize that, it could be from a bottom up perspective or a top down perspective. And so we got to be really careful on how like we could be giving power to like falsities of just like something that's kind of like fabricated out of, someone else's like, accumulative bias on whatever culture and tradition they came out of, because it's nuanced. All the cultures and the traditions and all these groups, whatever the groups are, they're it's a nuance to how they're borrowing stuff from nature, and they're making something out of nature. And for some reason, within a particular niche teamwork, some things stick and some things nature makes it not stick, kind of like here's a rough example. It's like, when Anakin Skywalker in episode 3, he's landing that spaceship, and he's landing that spaceship onto Earth, like all of like, the surface level materials of just the plaster shieldings, they're coming off, because it's in a different velocity of nature. So within that different velocity of nature on a different accord, within a different velocity acceleration context, it's taking that away, because it's not necessarily, doesn't have the necessary like on par technology in how it could sustain itself. So that's the working. It's like, like we take our spaceship through one place, how we do it, nature's going to test us, and excuse me for the rough example, but that's a analogy or a metaphor to how like we have like a secret synonymous relationship with nature, but we don't necessarily realize that, and we're not necessarily like mature and balanced with that. And it's on a deep level, because obviously like a part of nature lets herself get exploited. That's part of the illusion. She's like making it so like, oh, you could take some of me, but you're not going to take all of me. Like who knows? There's different natures within like the galaxy, right? There's different forests. And nature in this context, I'm just speaking of like, just kind of like the earthly landscape terrain, and how that symbiotically kind of has a compatibility with like its own ecosphere, and how that ecosphere connects to like different, respectively galactic suns, So within that, we're all taking any new age message that there is, we're all taking it within our own process. And as we're taking that within our own process, it's going to mean something to us as the years go by, and whether we deem it as relevant or not, within time and in life, as we grow through our lives, it will be more so relevant. What do I mean by that? Like, because like a different octave of nature, a more bigger one, is gonna like be dealing the cards and shuffling the deck and taking the cards after the after the round is done. After the round is done, the cards are taken back, nature being the card dealer. And after nature takes the cards back, we only towards the end we then realize how we could compensate and work and get in towards nature's favor. But that's the thing, it's only till the end we want to do that, because all of these new age messages, there's like or not all of them, not to be like not to be prejudiced with metaphorically with the new age messages, or not to be stereotypical with the new age messages. There's certain ones that carry more balance than others, spiritually, and there's certain ones that carry more balance than others, like I guess within this earth realm, and we tend to put the material before the spiritual, and that's not necessarily bad either. I'm just saying, like, underneath the approach, or underneath that of how we're reformulating our approach, that's a different thing. But like any of the new age messages that there are, the way we give attention to those new age messages, we don't necessarily realize it could like save our lives. So that's why life is taking us to where it's taking us, to see how we're like, respectively and neutrally, sometimes we could not be heeding what some of the new age messages are, and none of them particular, because all of them could stand out. All of them could have some type of truth. Whatever the new age message is, there's some type of truth for you and where you're at, but it might not be as applicable for you because you're not at that stage to realize and ready what meaning and significance it has. Like, here's one rough example. And there's a new age message, me trying to train with the unbiasedness of it, because it's came into my mental field of like trying to process it, and who's to say if this is really true? I'm just like letting it go through me more fluidly and more fluctuously. That's the thing. It's like, and people will have their biases as they may, as they grow through life. So within that, here's a rough example for like, how different new age messages could mean different things to us at different times. And one of the examples is taking one example and then uncovering the meaning within the process. Taking one example and saying like, oh shit, maybe it is doing something, maybe there is something to it, but we don't realize it because we're not in our synergy alchemical self, the different energies within our multifaceted alchemical being. I've underground and online ground kind of like explained that phenomenon like since 2017 respectively, but that's a different one. We're all at different places, we're all at different times within where we're going through in our lives. As we're going through our lives, different things are getting developed and enhanced more or less synergy alchemically, just standardly neutrally saying that, because the I'm not trying to necessarily like prove the receipts. It just is what it is. But we're taking the new age messages differently, and one of the new age messages that are there is like, and it doesn't necessarily have to come to your like forefront, you choose what you want to like give focus to. But one of those new age messages is like, there's a bunch of them, but like which ones like are needed for your real spirituality? That's the point. And the ones that aren't needed for your the ones that are needed for your real spirituality that you just don't know, well, eventually you'll come to hear about it because it's in the circulation of just the general new age message community, and you take it how you will. But one of the examples is like anything could be an example, but one of them that's kind of like ringing to me is like, and I'm trying to say this as unbiased as I can, and I'm trying to understand it, because obviously I could say it and then someone could have a bias and have their weird perspective towards me. I understand, where that could be coming from. But one of the new age messages that I'm trying to understand is like we're just like nothing is ours or something like that, or we're just borrowing all that stuff. So how relevant is that for your life, and how accurate is that for like life at large? Because it's like, and what does that mean? It means like, we're just using the material things within our transient time for our soul, but for some reason we're like neglecting the soul, and we're putting more of our eggs in our basket for less of the foundation. And my memory's doing some testy kind of stuff. So I just think like we're in solitude because a certain level of awareness has to be realized, and that's just your path.